4, 3, 2, 1, and happy Mardi Gras.
That's right, folks. Welcome back to Dr. J Radio Live. And as you heard, Joe, happy Mardi Gras, especially Fat Tuesday 2019. We are broadcasting, I am technically broadcasting from the City of Angels, but our home base is in New Orleans, 107.7 FM UPRN, as well as all the global affiliates, including iHeartMedia. Not to mention Deprogrammed Radio in the United Kingdom with their terrestrial affiliates in London and Leeds. Now, we bring to you tonight a fantastic guest and a great friend of mine who's been on the show a few times, and each time he's come on, he's brought, aside from his amazing stories of what he himself has experienced throughout his life, from being psychic, from having interaction with extraterrestrials, abduction, all of that. But he's also been able to predict things to the T. The very first time, if you recall, folks, back in November, he said, and he gave us dates too. He didn't just say, this is going to happen and without a date. No. Our guest told us dates. And let me, since I'm already just alluding around to it, let me just introduce him already, since you folks are probably wondering who's the guy giving predictions. It's Dr. Louis Turi. Dr. Turi, welcome back, dear friend.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on your show again, Dr. J. It's always a pleasure working with you, my friend.
Oh, the pleasure is absolutely here, and without a doubt. And of course, not only do I enjoy talking to you, the listeners love hearing you too. And YouTube Nation loves to hear you and see the little images that we put up at the time. Now, let me bring you back to November. And this is what I was going to say before I introduce your name. The first time you talked about, you made two predictions, and one of them was that there will be an earthquake over 6.0 on this particular date. Not only was there one, there was two earthquakes. One of them in Colombia, and I believe the other one was Iran, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Now, the last time you gave two more predictions: tsunami and a terrorist attack. And we've had quite a few bombings going off in Syria. I mean, U.S. soldiers getting killed in Afghanistan and other places like that. Before we talk about some new predictions and then let the show take a life of its own, let's go back to these two most recent predictions that you gave on my show. Not to mention what you do on other shows like Joe's or Coast to Coast, which you are going to be on for the first time after, I believe, 7 years?
Correct.
Yes. So,
correct. Yeah.
Tsunami. Let's talk about the tsunami first. For those who didn't catch it, what was the day you said it would happen, and where did it happen?
Well, you have to remember that I'm using Nostradamus' 16th century divine astrology and this methodology that involves quatrain and very obvious keywords. When I give you the date on your show, I always mention natural disaster. Natural disaster covers earthquake always above 6.0, to tornado, to volcano, to sudden enough tsunami. And when I mentioned one of the dates on the show you did, I think it was on the second one that you had me in the air, that's where the tsunami took place in Asia. And again, it's very easy for people to check my claim. All they have to do is to go to my website and to go either in my radio area or Google Dr. Turi and Dr. J, and then read. I always write a newsletter that is complementary to the prediction that I do. So, that's the beauty of having that UFO legacy, that predictive legacy that has been left by Draco. If you recall in your last show, I mentioned he did enter my mind, my body, and my soul on June the 12th, 2012. And again, I have the pictures of the very specific orbs that are progressively coming towards me and then finally entering my third eye and then coming out through my heart, and which means me serving the people. So there's quite a lot of stuff to investigate, and the only thing is those who need me the most, or those that are very, very skeptical and critical, are the ones who assume and never rate, and that's the problem. You need to do the mental gymnastics to realize my work is real. And later on, again, with your permission, Dr. J, I will give you more dates all the way to next month, so they will see that the timing is always accurate.
That's right. That's right. And that's one of the great things that I love to talk to you about, because right now we are on March 5th. As I mentioned, it is Mardi Gras, literally this Fat Tuesday. And when you give these dates, you're not vague about it. And that's the best part, because people who are able to see this later in the archives on YouTube, where it's live streaming right now, and I'm hoping all these fine folks, no one said they can't hear, so far all these fine folks in the chat are absolutely there. If they want to listen later and compare to what's happened in the world around us with what you said, they can, just like they did with the earthquakes.
Yeah, well, basically, in reference to the last TV show that I did on Age of Trust TV, I said to the host, his name is Lucas, I said to him, Lucas, I'm going to put the green where my mouth is. And again, the same story. Anyone who has problems, go to Dr.J.com and locate the banner there and click on March the 3rd, which was the last prediction that I gave. And I said, expect earthquake about 6.0. And we had a 6.0 and a 7.0.
That's right.
Yeah, it's there. So, I mean, not only this, but what's interesting is, and that people do not know, Dr. J, is that well before what happened with the government shutdown, what happened with all these guys being out of work for so long, what happened with all these large corporations that are going belly up, it was predicted. And I said again,
real quick, Dr.
if you go
Turi,
to my
when
website,
you say corporations belly up, are you referring to the 2008, literally the biggest depression we've had, global depression?
No, that was predicted on George Norris' show, including Katrina. I gave the exact date for that too. And before that, when I was on Art Bell, when you were running the show there, I told Art Bell that Clinton would be re-elected and to expect a religious war. 1995, I said, be ready for a religious war. That was well before anybody heard of Osama bin Laden and anybody heard of ISIS. That was years, 1995. So, and again, you can hear me and Art speaking on the air. That video, that audio is still on YouTube. So what I'm trying to tell you here, sometimes this gift turns out to be a curse. Because the last show that I did, again, I said, be ready for the beginning or the end of important phases of life. The next thing you know, my mom died on the day that I gave, so I'm not immune to the stars. And David Icke, on that day, his life changed too. He couldn't go to Australia because he was kind of stopped by some people who went against him and messed up his Second Amendment, and which I strongly, like he does, condemn. So, you're talking about the beginning or ending of important phases of life. That was the key word I gave on that TV show. And then for me to be suffering the loss of my mother, and for David Icke to be stuck on this airport and not being able to go where he was supposed to go, again, it dictated the value of my predictions. But sudden enough, I don't have the big voice that I need on a national level, like going on CNN and going on major network news. And God thanks I have people like you and George Norrie that, and of course Lucas on Age of True TVs that are helping me to realize that I have something that should be investigated by the scientific community. So not only I would give you the inaugural precise dates of the next quake, I'm going to do that again tonight, but we could also, if they wanted to work with me, Dr. J, like you do, we could find the location and saves a lot of life in the process. But those guys would rather be cut dead than to mention the word astrology. Yes. Even those guys are so educated, they don't even know that astronomy would not exist today if it was not for astrology. So in other words, astronomy is a byproduct of a much older science that I call astrology, something that I'm working so hard to put back where it belongs in our college university for the children of the future.
You know, the sad thing is not only are scientists very anti anything astrology, ufology, literally in Greek were literally, you could say, people say it's all Greek to me, and everyone usually knows that the English language is half Latin and half Greek. But where did Latin come from? Ancient Greek. So literally all the Western languages are ancient Greek. Now, the reason I only said this is because to break down the term astrology, astro, the stars, logos, ology. Logos means the language of the stars, or the speaking of the stars, speaking with the stars. In this case, the stars speaking to us. And it's just sad that now you have these scientific communities who want nothing to do with anything that you and I are talking about. For instance, not too long ago I had a gentleman who is a science contributor, astronomer for Forbes magazine, Forbes.com actually. He did not want to talk about anything. As a matter of fact, he only agreed to do 30 minutes because he said that last time he was on a show, he was hit from a question coming from the left, from left field about UFOs, and he didn't know how to answer it because he's anti it. But when you close your mind that way and you're not open to anything, well, then you're going to miss out a lot in life.
Exactly. It's like all NASA and the scientific community doing the same thing forever and then expect a different result. That's stupidity to the extreme.
That's actually that's exactly the term for insanity. Insanity really means doing the same thing, expecting a different result.
Exactly. And again, when I mention that science will be surprised in one of these dates, and next thing you know, you have a huge spider that is eating an opossum, and then you have the scientists thrilled and wondering how the hell this thing came out. And I give the exact date for them to see that on the news, or maybe when I say, expect space news, and then the exact date that I gave days, weeks, months before, you have the space crew Dragon that get launched on the exact day. I mean, I wonder why these people do not understand. When I say be ready for shocking surprise, and you read on the news that 88 women get mauled to death by dogs, this does not happen every day. Mostly because, as I tell all the people listening to the show, the reptilians do not stop only at invading the mind, the body, and the soul of humans, but also they incorporate themselves into animals and can turn your beautiful little doggy into a monster. When I say shocking news, and then you have a black guy that becomes the head of a neo-magic group, that doesn't happen every day, and it's very, very shocking. When I say, for example, expect news about the airport, the next thing you know, there is an outrage because John Wayne was once upon the time, I had an interview that resurfaced, and he happens to be kind of a little bit of a racist. When I say, for example, again, expect shocking news, and you see a guy killing his wife with a corn rake, this doesn't happen every day. So what I'm trying to tell you here, there is so much. And then if you go back in time, for example, in one of the many shows that I did, I will never forget that one. That was on July 2018. I think it was around the 27th, something like that. Yeah. I said be ready for a very large sudden release of energy, natural disaster that would produce a volcano. And on that very day, NASA and NOAA satellite confirmed that Manawatu volcano had the largest eruption of sulfur dioxide for years. I mean, I could go on and on and on. In fact, I don't even have any more rooms to say to my earthquake predictions. And suddenly enough, you're not going to believe this. There are people that have a radio show like yours, Dr. J, and then they remove the shows where my predictions of inaugural prediction of earthquakes are presented to the public. So I don't know why they do that. Maybe they get a call from some other people. Maybe they don't like me. They think I'm an egocentric. Maybe during those days they were still in the investigating and exploring my ability, and they thought I was lucky. But I mean, what I do is repetitively, and anything and anytime something that is repetitive is worth a scientific investigation. You agree with me?
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you mentioned these dogs that were mulling these women, it doesn't stop just with dogs. It's any creature on this planet can be infected by an extraterrestrial entity.
That's correct. I mean, you can see sometime in a circus or a bunch of elephants going totally berserk and kill people, even when they walk around the street in a circus parade. You can see not only dogs and elephants, but any animals that are supposed to and have always behaved properly, all of a sudden turn into killers to a very surprised trainer who end up dead. So it is very important to understand what's going on here. But the topic that I promote, thanks to you and other people, Dr. J, is so far-fetched, is so mind-boggling, is so incredible that people, and for good reason, don't get me wrong, I have a problem to assimilate or even accept the reality of what I'm talking about. But when I start to give proof, now that's where you're going to start to pay attention.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And when you said these people suppress these programs, I think they're doing it both because of fear and also I think it's a bigger problem, Dr. Turi. The reason is because it gives legitimacy to you, to people like you, those of you who have gifts such as yourself. If you predict something and it happens time after time after time, they're going to put the stops on it because they don't want to say, well, hold on a second. He's right. Maybe we shouldn't throw away astrology. Maybe we shouldn't throw away any of this. Maybe we should stick to science. Let me give you an example. SETI, right? They've been sending radio waves, the same darn radio waves. Primarily, I don't remember what it's called in Puerto Rico. Maybe someone else right here in the chat will remind me. You might remember the large antenna that is sending the radio waves. But they're all over the planet. And if you recall, Dr. Carl Sagan sent out this radio message in binary that included everything from where we are located in our solar system, meaning the third rock from our star, what our DNA is like, literally several things. And the final thing it had was the type of radio antenna we use to send these messages. And then this crop circle appeared, or not circle really, it was more of a rectangle, an image, in England decades later. And it literally was like a creation coming from the ETs in the same form, in binary, in this very almost identical. If you put the two close to side by side, the one Carl Sagan sent, meaning us, humanity, and the one received, you're going to see a lot of similarities. The differences are you see small beings with large heads. You see that they're silicone based, not carbon based. And here's the thing that people really need to pay attention to. And when I say people, I'm not talking to the fine people listening or in chat. I'm talking to people in NASA or Caltech or JPL or even my good friend Seth Shostak at SETI. Listen, folks, your radio antenna is so old, it's so limited. To be so egotistical to think that we can only communicate, or that these ETs are only going to communicate with the same way we do, is pretty kind of stupid to think. And the kind of communication that they showed at the bottom was vastly different than the antenna that we showed for radio waves, which indicates to me, and a lot of people who've seen this, that they are communicating with something different than radio waves.
Well, I agree with you on the scientific report, but what people do not understand is there is only two forces in the universe: positive, negative, up and down, black and white, God, devil, yin, yang, the front, the back, the day, night. So what I'm trying to say here is that you got a good ET and you have the bad ETs. Okay, now that we understand the mechanics, as much as humans are a walking battery with 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs, everything is symmetrical. Okay, now all ETs, will it be the nefarious reptilians who can only survive without fears in creating chaos nonstop, or the gracious draconis who offer ideas, productive ideas to create a good technology? The reptilians have also the opportunity and the option to use a celestial manifesto that's called Mercury retrograde. And that is where I need your attention and your listeners' attention. Okay, there is a tiny planet in our solar system that's called Mercury. This tiny planet evolves around the sun really, really fast. It's represented by the Greek god Mercury, a god who has wings on the back of his heel. Mercury was communication, transportation, talking, thinking, photography, critical thinking, and it's very strong in my chart or your chart, including George, Norrie, and Art Bell, which both were born in June under the constellation of Gemini, ruled by Mercury. So there's no accident for George.
And our president, remember
including. So what I'm trying to say here is 3 times a year, the reptilian knows that Mercury is going to go retrograde. Retrograde means it's an optic illusion. It appears in our solar system that this tiny planet goes backwards. It doesn't. It still goes forward. However, the energy of this planet reaching Earth is disturbed. Now, every animal, particularly birds and whales, mammals, have their inborn computers, and they are misguided towards the beach. So they beach themselves, which you're going to hear very soon. Okay, because Mercury is going to turn retrograde. What I'm trying to say is the scientists think, that the fish are using smell or senses. No. It's a computer. Okay, so when this planet goes retrograde, the reptilians, and you will see it right away. That's why I already mentioned it, because they create the chain reaction accident. And it's not only because of ice or snow on the roads, okay? Of course, that does not help, don't get me wrong. But if you remember the El Cajon Pass accident, I was in George Norrie, I said, be ready for a very, very deadly chain reaction accident. The next thing you know, El Cajon Pass accident, you had, death, miles and miles of people, banging themselves. So be ready for this type of news soon with chain reaction accidents. People of the past making the news, destructive weather. So the reptilians are waiting for those energy to affect us. So your computer is going to go berserk. Every moving part around you is going to go crazy. Your car is going to go berserk. In fact, each time Mercury is retrograde, I have either an accident or something that involves my car, the electronics. So be ready when this energy is on, when those cosmic winds are on, the reptilians jump on it. And then they can only mess up your computer and you're lucky. They can kill you in the process. So you have to be cautious. Now, I am not saying that humans are not handling the weather. They're trying. ARP do not, as it stands right now, they are not able to control the weather or even control natural disaster. The problem is a lot of people who have been, like in religion, indoctrinated for years to hear the same soup. They don't want to test anything else. And when I try to challenge them with what I know from my own self, as my own truth, then of course they're not going to like it. So it's important to keep an open mind. It won't take long for the scientific community, guided either by the draconists, and you can see already they are building incredible technology that can help save your heart, for your eyes, for your skin, if you burn yourself. They build all sorts of phenomenal technology that is induced by the benevolent draconists to create and to move forward. That's the positive entities, the positive extraterrestrial. Then you have the reptilians, so those who are creating, who have stimulated the mind in the 50s to those scientists who were hired by the government to build the neutron bomb, the nukes. And then they also developed more weaponry, more deadly tanks, deadly bombs, deadly armament, deadly weaponry. So, you have to understand that conspiracy is very real and very hard not to realize it is real. You have to be a moron not to realize that conspiracy is real. I understand that. But you need to understand the limits of what this human technology can do. But when it comes to the reptilians or the dragonists, there is no limit to what we can do with it. And that's the only thing I'm trying to emphasize to you, not to you, because you understand what I'm talking about. You know where I'm coming from. But for the people who are brainwashed into conspiracy because their UCI is only able to dwell with physical, rational, critical, scientific matter, turning these people into either atheists or people that would follow only conspiracy theory. There is a little bit more than conspiracy theory out there. That's my point of view.
Real quick, we have one of the first questions coming out of the chat, and then I want to go back to, of course, these energy, because it's obviously the reptilians are taking advantage of the Mercury retrograde and wanting to affect us, like you said, in these horrific ways. Now, we have a question, and I think it's a very, very good question. This is from helidiumlabs.com. He says, Dr. Turi, has somebody from the future time traveled back to show that person how?
Okay, rephrase that, make it in a way that I can understand. Remember, I'm French, even though I'm fluent in English sometimes. I have a problem.
Has someone from the future come back from the future to now to tell people now how to travel?
All right. Yeah, absolutely good question. There is no time in space. It's like a radio station that you're gonna tune to AM or FM and tune that knob right or left to infinity. So let me give you this example. Let's say, for example, you have been racist in this life. You've been very racist. You're a young soul. You have no idea that you hurt people. You don't take care of. You don't care about other people's emotions, and you just bash them to death. Okay. The next when you die. When the cord that connects you, the umbilical cord connected to the universal mind, also connecting your mind to the universal mind, dissipates, you die. Now that's where you're going to go to what you call the aquatic record, or maybe paradise, or whatever you have been indoctrinated with. Now let's say you're very religious, you're Christians, you're going to end up in a cloud, and you're going to see the angel playing harps, because when you die, you immediately inherit a tremendous amount of senses that allow you to make your reality almost omnipresent. As soon as you think, your thoughts are going to become real, because we are right here on Earth, right here, right now. God in training, in creation, in creating. So you are going to be laying down on this cloud, and you're going to hear the soft music of an angel guardian in his beautiful face smiling at you. You say, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to paradise. But at the same time, you're going to feel insecure because you're also going to remember, oh my God, but I did that. I was a racist. I was bad. And then all of a sudden, the guardian angel is going to transform through your own creative forces, through your own superconscious, into the devil. Now, whatever pictures you have seen in the book or you've been, looking at for years, you're going to be creating this immediately, and then you're going to see the devil now coming to you and sticking his fork right into your abdomen. Now you're going to feel the pain, or you're going to scream, or you're going to cry, because that's what the movie that you are allowed now to create. Now, you're going to die, hypothetically, and you're going to see the devil walking away. But you're going to think, but if I can see the devil, that means I'm not dead. And the next thing around, the devil look at you again, and he comes back, okay? And he stab you again, and again, and again. And you're going to do this many times until you finally realize, oh, wait a minute here. How come I'm not dead yet? So you're going to be forced by your own self to stop generating the negative forces, to stop aiming into the darkness, so to speak, of the ultimate force of positive and negative, and then you're going to be able to apply your will. And then that's where you're going to be receiving the help of the guardian angel, of the light being that are going to call you, because that is the positive light, so to speak. So I am using rational words, trying to explain something that's going to take place after you die. Okay, so I cannot really explain from A to Z, like a manual, like a book, what really is going on. I'm using symbolism. I'm using metaphor. I'm using the words that I believe will fit the best for your audience to understand what the hell I'm talking about. And talking about hell, you're not going to go to hell. You're already on hell, on this dense physical world, which is created by God himself to suffer. If you do something wrong, the physical matter is going to hurt you. You're going to burn yourself. You're going to suffer emotionally or physically. So you're already on hell. You're not going to go to hell. This is it, in your own ignorance. So, in my case, I'm from the future, and I was stupid enough to reincarnate myself on this dense, hard world so that I can help people to understand the afterlife. And that is why I have attracted, because of my UCI, which is my unique celestial identity, vibrate at such a weird and fast pace. I attracted the divine, and I attracted extraterrestrial, including Draco, which is working and helping you right now to channel this information for you, because I didn't prepare anything. I don't prepare anything. It's just jump in when I channel and I start to talk, and I'm giving you sample example that is the best way I could do. And that's why sometimes when I was on Age of Truth TVs and Lucas I was trying to explain something like you do, and you did not interrupt me, because I am into the archetypal realm of supracosmic consciousness, and then all of a sudden Luca hit me with a rational question. So I have to come back at the speed of light into this dense physical world to assimilate the question, like I did earlier. I was not able to do it. You need to give me a time to pace up from the high dimension into this low vibrational world, and then reconnect with reality. Do I make sense? That's how my mind works.
Absolutely. And when you mention that we are on this hell right now, this dense planet and this density, this lower vibration, a lot of people refer to Earth as a prison planet. What do you say about that? Would you agree with that statement?
No at all. A magnet will attract a piece of wood. If you vibrate at a high level, you're going to attract the people that vibrate like you or me. You and I, we vibrate at the same speed, so we connect. Okay, that's just magnetism. Now, if you work really, really hard, okay, when you die, nobody is going to judge you. but because you have been made in the image of God. You like it or not, you know it or not, you have inherited the same creative forces that your own creator. So when you die, you go back to God, you go back to yourself, and nobody but you is judging you accurately with a tremendous amount of senses that can't even begin to tell you how it works. Now, if you do your homework, you do not have to come back on this world, because every single star that you see out there, and there is trillions and billions and quadrillions, every one of those stars is a livable place, is a solar system with life in it, but not as you can perceive it, or see it, or understand it with your eyes and your ear or your 5 limited human senses. And that's what I'm trying to say. So if you're good enough, you don't have to go back to this world. You can go to a higher dimension. You can become a co-creator for God or yourself. You can create more butterflies, beautiful colors of butterflies, beautiful birds, trees, and any life forms. I mean, look at the variety of life. Look at all this spirit working endlessly for us to amaze us, to prove to us that creation is eternal. So you never die because you're always being. You die to rebirth. I mean, it's like when you're in the warm uterine life of your mother and the doctor comes and cut the cord, you died. You died to that life. You are separated from your mother. Then, at a very precise moment, a tap on your bottom or the cold of the room or the noise in the room, you integrate yourself and you connect with the superconscious, with the universal mind, which gives you a program. The program is whatever. If you have a good program and you work really hard in music and dancing, you're going to have the same gift as Michael Jackson. If you have been studying music, you're going to come back, and at the age of 10 years old, like Mozart or Beethoven, you're going to become a musical genius. I mean, it's endless. This is marvelous. What's ahead of us is absolutely mind-boggling. But people, in the name of science and religion, are indoctrinated. They refuse. They do not know. They are lost, and they think they can solve all the problems with science or with deceptive religions, which have been created in the first place by the reptilians to create humongous chaos all over the world.
To separate the reptilians versus the draconists, most people, when they hear draconists, they hear draconian aliens, and they think that there's these evil extraterrestrials. Reptilians, obviously, you made a point, are the ones that are not only trying to harm us, but to take over, as you call it, this beautiful real estate called Earth. Can you tell, just to set the record straight for all the listeners who may have not heard you last time, why we should trust the draconists? Because they are looking out for our interest, aren't they?
Indeed. Well, the sad reality is people associate. It's an association of words. They've heard of the dragon. Okay, or they heard a talking head out there who has no cosmic consciousness, who has never seen a UFO, dealt with UFO, or never dwelt into astrology or the superconscious in time and space, making up stories. So the reptilians have a variety of names. You can call them the Nordics, you can call them the Greys, you can call them the falling angel, you can call them the Satan, Lucifer. You can give as many names as you want. But these are just references for one single group of extraterrestrial, the reptilians. The draconists are from the constellation of Draco, contrary to what people tell you. Okay, the draconists are the gardeners of this world. Okay, and like the reptilians, they suddenly enough cannot survive without positive thoughts. They need your laugh. They need your happiness. They need your hopes. As much as the reptilians need chaos, need stress, need problem. And what the reptilians are doing right now, they're forcing our own president, which is totally infected, it's pretty obvious, they're bringing him into the past. Everything about our president is brought back into the past by the draconists, not by the reptilians, okay? He's already infected. So we know where he's at. He's infected by greed because he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he's got a perfect health record. So the guy is as clean as a whistle like me. Okay,
Yes.
I probably drink more wine than this guy ever drank in his life. But he's greedy, and being greedy is as bad as being racist. It's an emotion. It's an emotion that always drives him to do absolutely anything to get in power. And if he has to treat people like jerks or have no respect, he will do that because he's got that greed. It's a mixture of greed and ego, and he's controlled by the reptilians. So there's no way our own president is infected. And the sad reality, I don't see that separation in the United States getting better, because I'm telling you, the next 2 or 3 years from now, that's not going to be joy on this planet because of the legacy that President Trump has left in the world. You have to remember, okay, I think I mentioned that in your last show, Dr. J. When you elect a president, you are forced immediately to suffer his fate. It's like, the white German people electing Hitler. Okay,
yes.
They did not know that. Yeah, Hitler. They didn't have any cosmic consciousness. They gave this guy the power when he had the wrong stars. Pretty much like Trump, who has the tail of the dragon, which is very negative. That's why the reptilians are feeding on him. The tail of the dragon is in Sagittarius. The Sagittarius rules the ninth house. The ninth house is the house who regulates anything and everything that dwells with politics, with foreigners and foreign affairs and religion. These are areas that the president's legacy has cursed the world already and is not going to stop. Sudden enough, even if whatever happened to President Trump, if he gets in power again, he's a dual. A dual means everything in his life is 2, 4, 6. He cannot have one golf course or a hotel. It's just the way he is. He cannot have one tweet. He is a dual. Being a dual means everything happened 2, 4, 6, 8 times. So the chances, like Roosevelt, who was also a dual, to be reelected are pretty high. Okay. However, the reptilians the draconians are working all the time to try to stop him. And to force people to realize what's going on. See, I don't care myself about politics. I don't care if you support the president or if you hate the president. Sudden enough, because I expose him and everybody else around me, that's my job as an astropsychologist using forensic astrology to do that. That's my job. They immediately think I hate the president. I cannot even vote, for God's sake. I'm still French. I don't care about if you like or if you don't like the president. All I'm trying to do is to make you aware of what his UCI is all about. His UCI is his program, is a unique celestial identity, is the program he inherited. And if the president were aware and cosmic conscious on the darkest area of his chart, then he could apply his will. But he can't. He's a 72-year-old man.
That's right.
You cannot change people.
And by the time because polls show that he absolutely will be elected, especially looking at all the other candidates that the left is throwing out right now. Personally, my belief is that the Democrats really don't have anyone because they are gearing up for 2024. So they're letting the small players run right now, not throw too much money at it from the DNC, knowing that Trump will win with the re-election, so that way they could focus on getting $1 to $2 billion plus dollars. I mean, I remember Barack Obama, I believe in 2008, raised $1 billion, $1 billion with the B, for an election. I'm sure it's a lot higher by now. And I also get the impression, Dr. Turi, it's also that everybody on the Hill, I mean, you got Chuck Schumer, you got Nancy Pelosi, everybody wants that power. And I think it goes all over the place, everywhere. Anybody who's in that position of power, when you have amassed that much wealth, when you are a super multi-billionaire, say Bill Gates or Vladimir Putin, what is there left to conquer? power over people. This is why I truly believe, and Putin already changed the Constitution, so he doesn't have to, there's no more term limits in Russia, meaning folks, you could put money on this, and this is, Dr. Turi, correct me if I'm wrong on this prediction, this is just my own belief. Vladimir Putin will not leave the office of presidency in Russia unless he passes away. That's what I think is fact. Now, before we move on, I really think so, because he's achieved that, and he is super rich. We have a few questions here. Let me go in reverse order. We have MacArthur Louis Saint. I hope I said that right. Dr. Turi, any progress on warp drive propulsion?
Okay, again, the scientific community is doing a phenomenal job as far as new technology is taking place every single day. And there are definitely technology out there that you're not allowed to hear about because it's for, the defense, it's for security purpose. But as long as the draconists are pushing those scientists, those inventions can only benefit humanity in the long run. And as far as the political front, you can look, for example, depending on where you are, if you're a Democrat or if you're a Republican, you can choose who is the reptilians and who is the Democrat, or who is the reptilian, or who is the draconist. That's what I'm trying to say. So depending on what side of the scale you are, you can see the balance. Without opposite, there will be no life. And I have to confirm what you just said about Putin. Putin is a Libra, okay? Being a Libra is naturally very religious, and he's extraordinarily smart. He's very educated. He's not spiritual. If he was spiritual, he would not associate with any form of codification of thought. But again, if you count to 3 from October, November, December, his critical thinking is regulated by Jupiter. Jupiter is the codification of thought. Jupiter is books, which means if you know somebody born in October, they are professional students. In fact, my 2 nieces are doctors, and both of them, their mothers told me I never had to tell my daughters to open a book. That's the beauty of having a child born in October, because they only go from the book. The book says, that's why they become very dangerous, because they become religious fanatics, they become scientists, because the book said so, and they have no sense of accepting anything else that has been accepted by the generality. And that's what's very dangerous, and that's where Putin is at. And knowing that his 3rd house is in the sign of Sagittarius, that is the tail of the dragon's tail fed by the reptilians to our president. President Trump was born with the tail in Sagittarius, right in the 3rd house of Putin, which is using him as a puppet and controlling the entire United States political scenery through the technology that he used, because he's got the head of the dragon in Aquarius that rules technology. So now you have to be very careful with the Russian, because this type of dragon regulates anything and everything to do with nukes. Okay, and remember, America, July 4, 1776, was born with the tail of the dragon in the world of Aquarius. So the sudden release of energy has been experienced already in the 9/11 that I predicted a year before on Coast to Coast on Arbel. On January, and not only the 9/11, but also the Pearl Harbor as a sudden release of energy. So America is seriously prone to a sudden release of energy, and I just really seriously hope that the legacy that our president is putting around the world, that the draconists will be able to stop this nasty way, because the reptilians are definitely winning the battle. Sad enough, the cosmic grand order completely forbidden any extraterrestrial to interfere with the human's affair. So knowing that the good draconists are law-obeying and cosmic conscious, they do not interfere. But the reptilians couldn't care less. They are crooks. They don't care about the law. They interfere by doing all sorts of negativity, abducting people, hijacking their body mind, and so creating groups like ISIS, using those cosmic winds to kill people. It's endless. And if you look, it becomes now a habit. It becomes normal to see this shit, excuse my French, going on national TV with an endless chain of incredibly negative news. It becomes a habit. It becomes normal. And that is extraordinarily dangerous.
Now, there's quite a few. You're absolutely right. It does become extraordinarily dangerous, and people really are engaging in chat, and I really like this. This is great, Dr. Turi. Let me go again here. Let's grab at Stacy Singer says this question: do you know who or what Q is? And if you don't know what Q, we're talking about QAnon, the person supposedly close to the president who's released pictures proving that whoever it is definitely close to the president, either pictures of Trump using what looks to be a smartphone in the Oval Office, Trump on Air Force One, things like that. So that's the question is, do you know who or what Q is?
Well, it is obvious that Q is working for either the Reptilians or the Draconists, depending on what you know about Q. If you think this person is helping the president and his agenda, or the Reptilians' agenda, to create a humongous chaos which is already in place and going to grow like a cancer, sorry people, you asked for it. Dr. Turi doesn't lie, you're going to say it, okay? Be prepared, okay? Or if you think this guy is actually working for the Draconists, then he's an undercover FBI agent and he's helping the Draconists and he's helping the good side. At that point, I don't know. I can only go for what I know, and I don't dwell too much with political matters apart from just looking at the damage that is being done because of the reptilians through our infected president.
You know, another question, and speaking of infected presidents, Dr. Turi, it doesn't stop with the U.S. It doesn't stop with Russia. It sure as heck doesn't stop with the Prime Minister of Britain. Again, back to my argument earlier with greed, once you reach that certain point of wealth, even if you're not a billionaire, even if you have a couple $1 million, it's the power over people. It's the ability to say, go do this, and they do it. Go to war, go die for me, and they do it is what drives people to achieve that. Again, I don't want to bash anybody from the left, but look at Hillary Clinton during the Benghazi thing. You had a United States ambassador being killed, asking for help. And what happened? Nobody came to help. Okay, here is... Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let me find some other questions here. Stacy Singer says doesn't trust Q. It's ironic you say this, Stacy, because I've been hearing a lot of that lately. Here we go. Dezombified. What do you think Trump's trying to do with the Space Force?
Well, again, if you look at if you were cosmic conscious, and that's not disrespecting you because you're not one of my students, okay? Talking to her now because she's listening. If you were cosmic conscious, like my student, you would know the area of the chart where people regenerate. Okay, people regenerate in one specific house, and we have 12 houses that conduct every affairs of the human's affair. Okay, so let's talk, for example, Putin, born in October. Putin regenerates in his second house of money because you can only regenerate through the location of Scorpio and Pluto, okay, which happens to be one of the base of the reptilians. Incidentally, the reptilians have a very strong base in Pluto. They travel in time and space through dark matter, okay, through black holes, okay, and their base is on the planet Pluto, which once upon a time I used to have a lot of fights with a lot of scientists who thought that it's not a planet, and they finally realized with technology that Pluto is a planet. So, and then they have another base which is more of a fueling station, which is on the Bermuda Triangle. That's where everything disappears. They are using the unique window to make everything disappear. So what I'm trying to say is wherever you have Pluto in your chart or Scorpio, you have to do it or you die. And as far as Putin is concerned, is to gain as much money, and do anything, kill, control, abuse, or manipulate Trump because he's a billionaire to get the money. Okay, now Trump becomes a Scorpio on his sixth house. If you count 6 from June, you're going to end up in November. June, July, August, September, October, November. So our president regenerates through his 6 hours of work. And wherever you have Scorpio, you are like a superhuman. That's why the president can work night and day, never feel tired. That's why he regenerates with investigation. And when he serves the world, when he works, he becomes a Scorpio. He's ruled by Pluto, which is controlled by the reptilians. So all President Trump wants is power, because he already got the money, and that confirms exactly what Dr. J was saying. But Dr. J says on the intuitive, correct level when I'm giving you more of the dynamics that are taking place. And that goes on for every single human being on this planet. Wherever you have Scorpio, you're going to be a superhuman. Dr. Turi is a Scorpio in his 9th house of teaching and publishing and education. Now, whomever is listening to me right now has that regeneration principle, but suddenly enough, people are not curious enough to tap into divine astrology to find out where they regenerate and where they can be at their best and where they are unbeatable by a will, a supernatural will, coming from that scorpionic, plutonic energy.
Now,
make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, here's another thing, and I've been hearing this, and I'm sure you have been hearing this too, Dr. Turi, is that we are supposed to have these mass landings where these extraterrestrials that have been hiding for a long time, or because, yes, people can capture them on film, the craft coming in and out, but they're very evasive. But for a long time, and I'm talking about years and decades.
Can I cut you off right now?
Sure.
It's very, very important that you understand that in the universe, everything is moving, and is moving very, very rapidly to the point where the reptilians or the draconians will not have to use very specific Uranic window to integrate themselves on this world. They can only come into this dense physical world under very specific cosmic wind, and they have to do it in and out. It's like when you are allowed to go somewhere and you can only stay a certain time, like underwater with a ball of oxygen in your back. You are limited by a certain amount of oxygen. So the reptilians are using those windows to come in this dense physical world because antimatter does not exactly agree with those guys, if you understand what I'm saying. I repeat myself, as the world is accelerating, okay, when the world goes to a very high level of spiritual acceptance, and when everything accelerates, then the connection between between their world and our world, or their reality and our reality, will become one. Then they will not. You will see them walking around you like you see your neighbor. It is not taking place just yet, but we are moving very fast in that direction. Does that answer some of your questions?
No, yeah, that's actually a very good point. And this also reminds me of Ronald Reagan when he made that very famous speech at the UN, which he also said in another smaller arena, when he said that if we, meaning humanity, were faced by an extraterrestrial threat, wouldn't we all put our problems aside and come together as one? Now, you took it one step further in saying with these extraterrestrials we are as one. Now, I want everyone to think about this, and Dr. Turi, this is the point I'm getting at, is these ETs that come visit us, they have 2 eyes, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, 1 nose, 1 mouth, similar anatomy to humans. Yes, sure, they may be shorter, different skin color, different, maybe even, as I mentioned, from that, it's hard to say crop circle, more of a pictogram, silicone based, but essentially it's as if we all are descendants of one another. Do you believe that at some point in time there was this one race and we've all descended And that's where we all broke off, and that's why we have the same anatomy, basic anatomy, but yet are different enough to say, okay, this creature here is from this star system, this one here is from another dimension, etc., etc.
Again, there is an hierarchy of extraterrestrial, out of the good and the bad one, but the one you're referring at are the grays, and those are dignified robots.
Yes. Yes.
You know, unless you get one and you dissect it and you find out that it has no intestine and no stomach and God knows what, you know, it's very, very difficult to be rational with extraterrestrial anatomy. All I know is, for now, and that I know as to be a fact, they interfere and they affect humanity on a psychical level only, and no one will turn into a lizard. Okay, if they're affecting your mind, they're affecting your body, your mind, and your soul. Let's say telepathically, if psychically doesn't make enough sense to you. Okay, but people have to understand what psychical energy means. And I think, I'm not sure if I gave you that example in one of the shows that we did, but correct me if I did already. When I was a young man, around 19 or 20-year-old, I was called to do my 3 days of orientation in the Navy, and I left my house and I went about 200 miles down south, close to Toulon, the south of France, in a base, in a marine base, French Navy. And I was there with all the guys, and I was laughing, and I was having fun, and all of a sudden, I felt like crying and sad like you have no idea. And I couldn't hold my tears, and I didn't want to cry in front of the guys. So I went in the bathroom, and I was looking at myself, and tears was pouring out of my eyes. What the hell? What the hell's going on with me? What's wrong? And at that very precise moment again, I heard the captain voice through the speakers calling my name. He said, "Soldier Turi, present yourself immediately to the captain office." So I went straight to the captain office. He had the phone in his hand, and he goes, "Hey, Louis, you're here to become a man, yes?" I said, "Yes." "Okay, well, you have to be a man right now. Here, pick up the phone." So I pick up the phone, and on the other side, there was my brother Joe, my older brother Joe. And he says, "Louis," I said, I know, something terrible happened." He said, "Yes, Vince, my 16-year-old brother was killed. He died killed by a drunk driver." What I'm trying to say is psychic ability is that everybody was mourning my brother. He was on his deathbed, and all the family and neighbors, everybody was crying. But Louis was not there. So everybody was thinking, "Oh my gosh, Louis, he's the only one in the family who's not here." And their thought went like a laser beam and reached me and warned me what was taking place 200 miles north. So that's what you call telepathy, psychic ability. I took that metaphor, I took that very solid example to make people aware that my entire family could have been either the reptilians or the draconis sending me messages, good or bad. Do you understand what I'm trying to say now?
Absolutely, absolutely. And
they cannot dwell with us on the physical plane just yet. The world is not vibrating fast enough. We are coming to that. We are coming to the acceptance. Remember, we create our reality. When the majority of human beings finally realize, through people like you and me and other radio hosts, which are highly spiritual and advanced spiritually, you are helping the general cosmic consciousness of all the people that are currently listening to an acceptance that has been rejected for forever by the religious community or the scientific community. So when the numbers goes in our favor, our thoughts, remember earlier, we create our reality. The future is nothing else than the reality, than the reincarnation of the thought, that we are going to be able to face our reality on Earth. That same reality that you create immediately when you die. I explained all that to you earlier. Do you remember?
Absolutely, I do. And speaking about the vibrations, the fact that we are vibrating at a higher frequency and that at some point we will reach that frequency, but we're not there yet. And
No.
let me go because these questions are piling up, and I gotta say these people listening in the chat are very engaged and very in tune with what you're saying, Dr. Turi. Katerina Luna de Camilla asks, exactly how many species of extraterrestrials do we know of?
That depends on whomever you have listened to. As far as I'm concerned, there is only two major group of extraterrestrials. Okay, two races: the Draconis and the Reptilius, the good one and the bad one. Now, the names associated with the Draconis could be the guardian angel, spiritual of light, enlightening being, guide, spiritual guide, and the Draconis, devil, Satan, Lucifer, the falling angel. So, the classification is endless. But to my very knowledge, Shaolin Draco, there is only two, the good and the bad. Like there is positive and negative, up and down, black and white, from the back, God, devil, the yin and yang, positive, negative.
When you mentioned the Greys being glorified robots, there was a comment here that I think very much fits exactly what you said. This is also something I've heard. Stacy Singer says, Greys want our souls. We are containers to them. They also work for many races. Do you believe that? Because if they are glorified robots, that means they have no soul.
Exactly. They are programmed. Like a human being is programmed to be good in mathematics, to be good in speaking, in writing, in dancing, what we associate with gift. Those robots are programmed for specific missions like cutting cows, handling electronics, or high technology flying saucers. It's like when we make a little robot to go on Mars. Each time we create a robot, it is more sophisticated and it has its program. And by the way, I don't know how many people believe that the robot on Mars died. That's not true. This robot is in perfect condition, but NASA needs the money, needs the support, they need to entertain themselves and yourself by discovering a new planet every single day because they have to pay their bills, their insurance, their mortgage. It's a very abusive, infected corporation which want people to believe one day they're going to go to Mars when it's absolutely insane. As much as I believe we're going to go on Mars, as much as I believe people turn into lizards. That tells you how people can be so oblivious and so innocent. Oh, stupid.
Now, Lars Saturn actually makes a very good point here. Greys like artificial intelligence. I would have to say yes. What's your opinion about that?
Exactly. Yeah, I just mentioned that. Yes, it is an artificial intelligence which has been programmed like a human is programmed to perform certain tasks. Now, there are humans that can run much faster than you because their program is Mercury. Mercury, the planet of communication, also control the animal world and the horses. And the horses run really fast. And with the horses, we deliver the mail in the old days. So you have to understand the energy of Mercury. And those robots are not just technologically incredible, phenomenal achievement. Those robots also involve the universal mind. The extraterrestrial knows exactly how to use those energy. Let me explain something, how I use that energy myself. Now, I create a talisman. Talisman is captivating the energy that somebody is missing. Let me tell you this little story. When I was in the UK, in the Royal School of Music, learning how to play piano, I was young and I was handsome and I was French, God knows what. I was bad with young girls and they loved me. And I had this guy, he was my best friend and he was British. And he couldn't get a date. His life depended on it. So I look at these stars, even though that I was young, I was always been into the stars. And I realized that Venus, which is the planet of love, which stimulates the seat of attraction between human beings, that planet was very weak in his chart. So I said to him, look, I'm going to make you a talisman. I don't know why. That's the first time in my life that I made a talisman. I find a piece of metal, and I knew that Venus is controlled by the metal of Venus is copper. The color copper is pretty much what women are looking for when they go and tan on the beach.
Right.
They're looking for that tan.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why it's called copper tone.
Right, and Charles Bronson, I'm sure you know this guy. I did his stars when he was a very, very famous guy, and he's loaded with Venus in his chart, so he was very magnetic, and he has this color, this tan color. So I knew that energy was missing in my friend's UCI. At that time, I didn't create a UCI, but I knew it was missing in his stars. So I melted copper, but I waited for Venus, for the moon to enter the sign of Taurus, which is controlled by Venus, and I melted that metal during those celestial auspices, like the Mayans used to do, like any disappeared civilization used to do in creating all sorts of talismans to use magic. And magic doesn't make somebody evil, it makes somebody superhuman, because now you're using natural forces. And then when I gave him that, I also print his name, and I printed the planet Venus and Jupiter to expand the energy. I give them that talisman, and you would be amazed of his confidence after that. And some people say, well, it's in his mind. He thought that thing was going to help him, but his entire personality changed. His entire body changed when I gave him that. So there are people that are born with some deficiency. For example, there is no accident when you have a child that is born with Down syndrome or gays and lesbian,
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reptilius invade the fetus of the young mother. This young mother drinks too much. She smokes drugs. She does all sorts of stupid things. She's young, and when she sleeps, that's where psychically again the reptilius hijack, so to speak, that fetus and start to mess up with the genes and do some shortcut to make sure that creates trouble when the child is born, so to speak, to what somebody do not accept as normal because they are not educated. Now this child is either gay and lesbian. To them, it doesn't do the right thing. It's against their religion. They don't understand. They want to hang him, so to speak, which is terrible. So what I'm trying to say here, even though that this child may appear to be very healthy for a while, later on in life, this child will suffer because the gene have been manipulated if he does not have any physical problem when he arrives in this world. So the problem doesn't have to be only physical. They could mess around the gene, the brain function, and open up to all sorts of disease. There is incredible amount of information involving the reptilians that society is not willing, able, or to assimilate, to accept, and that's my dilemma. So I have to make people think so hard, and you know the rule. You make people think they love you, like Joel Osteen when he talks about Jesus. But when you make them think the way I do, make really, really think, take it out of their box, then they hate me with passion. And that's where we're at.
Speaking of children, MacArthur Lewis Saint has two questions, but one of them is related to what we were just talking about. This is the question, and I'm reading it straight from literally word for word, Dr. Turi. I haven't even checked it first. I just know it's a question for you.
Okay.
Is there any technologies that can prevent a child from being born with birth defects?
No. Absolutely not, because it's outside of the control of human. I mean, there is no way we can go into the fetus ourselves. We can manipulate like the reptilians or the draconists would do if somebody has to serve a very specific purpose. Getting and manipulating the human gene doesn't have to be negative only. Now, there are people that are geniuses out there. There are people that have extraordinary talent, okay? And that it is set by a mixture of their own stars and a divine interaction or interference from the reptilians. So at this time now, there is not much that science can do to prevent a mother who has been using too much drugs to be a recipient for an abduction from the reptilians that would mess up her baby, her unborn baby on that thing.
Now, this is something that I don't know much about, but maybe you do. This is also from MacArthur Lewis Saint. He says, so basically, can I ask your guest, Dr. Turi, what do you know about the Nixon time capsule?
Nixon time capsule.
Yeah.
Again, you had, as I said earlier, there is no time in space.
No. When they say time capsule, they mean like something that was, let's just say right now we're in 2019. So you might grab baseball cards, you might grab an iPhone, something from.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Bury it and then resurrect it 50 years from now, 100 years from now, something like that. This is what I'm assuming, unless MacArthur says more about.
Yeah, I got you now, Dr. J. Well, I already gave that answer earlier when I said when I use the radio knob that you can turn right forever or left forever, because there is no time in space. The human body, through technology, will be able in time and space to do that. Like we will be able to do omnipresence. We will be able to go to New York in a matter of a second, but it's not going to be your body. It's going to be a physical thing. And the technology has its limits, like the genius of stupidity has no limits. Okay? So I'm trying to be I'm trying to bring as much rational as possible. There is absolutely no limit in time because time is timeless. There is no time in space. So you can go either way in the past and the future, depending on how much karma you need to burn. In reference to what I said earlier, if you're a racist in all your life, you're going to be born in Africa in the 30s and be totally destitute, so that you can learn what it means to be a minority and being literally murdered by white people, supremacists, racist. So if you are belonging to that crowd and you operate the wrong way, you can go, believe me, you can go in the past and reincarnate. So the time machine, the time capsule that she's talking about is already in place, but it's taking place from a very high psychical, spiritual order. Does not mean that we will not be, as the world progresses and the vibration accelerates, produce that type of technology, but you're not going to go there physically. Your body will be sitting on a chair and you'll be able to travel in time and space with your spirit, like the old Indian used to do. And many of them used to use drugs, narcotics, very powerful narcotics. And of course, they were stimulated by the reptilians to see all sorts of negativity, and they never came back and got lost and probably invaded and died in their own hell they've been sucked in. So this is a very, very dangerous, forbidden area. If you're not cosmic conscious, you want to stay away from any form of black magic, any form of ghosts, anything that is supernatural. If you're not trained, or if you don't know what the hell's going on in these spheres, stay clear. Do not handle anything that you don't know nothing about. There is a lot of astrologers and tarot reader Sunday afternoon people who are trying to guide others when they need more help than you do. And then you have the real thing like me. The problem is that you're going to pay the price, you know.
You're literally going to pay the price with your life, with your health and other things.
Exactly. So you got to be cautious. Don't dwell in the dark world if you don't know where you're going, if you don't have enough information, if you're not cosmic conscious, if you don't understand what the reptilian agenda is all about. Stay clear, because it's very real. and we are coming as the world is vibrating at a higher speed. There's going to be more discussion about this phenomenon. There are more and more people who are interested. That's why people are asking me non-stop to be in the air. I'm going to be in the air in London. I'm going to be coast to coast. I'm going to be all over the place. People are starving for this type of information because they are ready. They were not ready 10, 15 years ago when I first started on Art Bell, when you were there, Dr. J, when I made my 2 first predictions that came to pass.
Some more questions. I always want to give, of course, precedent and deference to the listeners since they are engaged to give them a direct contact to you. Even if you can't answer them, by all means, it doesn't hurt at least to give you the questions from the listeners. So here is a couple more. Where did this one go? We have one from... Okay, what do you know about Yellow Book? And let me give you the backstory about that, Dr. Turi. Yellow Book is a technology that is a supposed time viewing machine, and it was supposed to be either given to us by extraterrestrials or recovered from a crash disk. And anybody out there listening can correct me by all means if you know more about this. And the reason why it's named Yellow Book is because the images you see have like a yellow tint to them. And here's the interesting thing, Dr. Turi. Depending on your mood, the future changes constantly. So let's just say you're in a bad mood and you look at it, or you use the machine to see what's happening in 3 years from now, you're going to see bad things. Let's just say you're in a happy mood, very pleasant, then you're going to see good things. This is what I've done, found out through my own research and through other interviews. But what do you know about Yellow Book is the question.
Well, first of all, it is certainly not something given by the extraterrestrial, because antimatter do not agree. Not yet. Okay? They cannot give me a tool. They cannot give me a screwdriver that they use on their flying saucer, because they don't use flying saucers. They use their mind to fix things. So what I'm trying to say is pretty much the same energy that helps all the Egyptians to build this pyramid and other very, very famous monuments out there. So what I'm trying to tell you is anything that you hear, you apply common sense. You can only relate to anybody because of your education, because of your experiences, because of your intelligence, and most of all, because of your legacy from the stars. People are very, very different. None of us is different. In fact, you may look like your mom and your dad or your brother and your sisters, yet they're going to be your biggest strangers because they will never think, behave, or have the same fate than you. So anything that is presented to you, you can only react to it providing the type of information you have had before. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, your attitude is based upon what you call cosmic biorhythm. There will be days where you wish you had stayed in bed because the entire day you constipated. Anything you're trying to do won't work. You have had those days. That means the moon is cruising your tail of the dragon, and you are in the one of your 2019 negative cosmic biorhythm. That's where you are highly prone to get into an accident, to get into trouble, lose your job, or get an infectious disease, because that's where the reptilians are going to realize you're very vulnerable, and they're going to use that yellow, dirty color to make you feel like hell. Now, there are other days when the moon is cruising your head of the dragon, when you are under your positive cosmic biorhythm, you're going to get up and you're going to have a fantastic surprise. And then it's going to be this way all day. Okay? And that's when you go and play the lottery and you're going to win. Okay? Yeah. Now, you're going to say to me, but why don't you do that, Dr. Turi? Why don't you, if you know that much, why the hell don't you get the lottery and get your own radio or TV show? Because you cannot apply cosmic wisdom for selfish purpose. I cannot use metaphysics for my own selfish gain. If you want me on national radio, you have to give me the money. You have to help me. You know, if you think my message is good enough, and I should be heard, and you have a lot of money, you don't know what to do, stop giving it to the church because they're infected.
That's right.
They're no good. Look what happened with all these religious people and the Pope hiding everything.
Yeah.
Even not only this, but the Pope is people who are so religious, they have no clue that all the popes of the past were taught astrology by the Vatican Council. And I have the proof of all that. So if you have to invest, listen to your heart, listen to your intuition, and stop giving to people who are putting $350,000 for 30-second advertisement in every channel, asking you for to give some money to save a little dog or a little cat. Okay, right. Because it's a fact. It's a fact that 3/4 of the money goes into the secret bank account of all those infected, greedy bastards' bank account in Switzerland.
Usually it's 90%, Dr. Turi. Sometimes it's as high as 90%. Only 10% goes to the cause of the charities. 90% goes to quote unquote operating costs, paying the CEO.
Yeah, but you see, exactly, Dr. J. But people don't have any critical thinking because it is designed by these people to grab their emotions. And you know the rules. In the eternal battle between emotion, which is fear, which is greed, which is sensitivities and emotion. Okay, logic disappear, emotion always win. That's why if you get upset with somebody, or you drink too much, or you have too much chemical in your system, then the reptilian takes over, and then your logic is gone. You're going to start to fight, and you're going to attract the cops, and you're going to go in jail. So, when you realize that the cost of an advertisement is over $300,000 for 30 seconds, for God's sake, and they are all over the place, and then they have the money, they have the organization, those infected corporation, they have the means to control the information, and that's why they have kicked me out of every single major networking website. And I'm lucky to be with you and to be accepted and once again on Coast to Coast and on the BBC in London. So what I'm trying to tell you, the stars were against me, the reptilians were against me for many, many years. And for some reason, now they are moving away from me. They cannot stop me anymore. And the reptilians are not my enemy anymore because they cannot reach me anymore. And the draconics are pushing me, putting all the wind in my sails to go forward. Next weekend I'm going to go, providing my hip and my back gets better. I just turned 69. I still have tons of energy, don't get me wrong. But I'm supposed to go to Hollywood. I'm going to disguise myself as Nostradamus, and I'm going to be on TV. We're going to do a pilot reality show where I'm going to be talking to people about astrology, do some psychic reading right there in their face and shock the hell out of them to prove to them that astrology is a real science. I'm going to be talking about UFOs, whatever it's going to be. I'm going to be doing magic stuff in the street and in the restaurants in Beverly Hills. So once I get that video, I'll put it on YouTube, and then people are going to really realize that there are real things out there that are real gifted, and I'm one of these rare guys. I'm not a magician who make it up. I'm a real magician. That's the difference between me and another magician. And then I'm going to be able to prove it to the world very soon with the help of the draconics.
And when you get that video done, please do let me know so we can absolutely have get a link to it so people can watch it. By all means, and let me know when you're in Hollywood, or Hollyweird as people call it, since you'll be right in my own backyard. Now, here's a question that I didn't get to yet, but I definitely want to acknowledge this listener. It's Dezombified. I know you mentioned that you said there's two races, Draconis and Reptilians. Dezombified wants to know if the black-eyed kids, other people call them black-eyed children, are aliens. Some people even say hybrids. What do you say about that?
Again, I already answered that by saying that there is a multitude of names associated or attributed to this class of nefarious reptilians. So they are obviously infected children. They can do some serious damage by manipulating the gene within the womb of a mother who doesn't take care of herself, but it can also, and the legacy is seen through the black eyes of these children by manipulating the gene of the eye color. They can do so much damage. You just imagine during the Holocaust, imagine the power they had over the German people and the SS, led by a totally infecting, authoritarian, egocentric, crazy lunatic like Hitler. Imagine the power of the reptilians that have been going through the entire humanity history since forever and for a long time until we, with the help of the Draconis, psychically are able to remove them from the solar system. Now you have to understand, okay, the Earth is a very strategic position for both the reptilians and the Draconis. That's why the Draconis are assigned as the governors of the solar system by the hierarchy, the cosmic justice, and they have to respect laws. The Draconis, pretty much like Putin did by annexing Ukraine, or China building base in the middle of the South Pacific Ocean on these little islands. The reptilians want Earth. It is a strategic position, the closest thing they have from Pluto. And they know in time and space they're going to be able to dwell with physical matter as time progresses and as the universe expands more rapidly into the age of Aquarius. So I'm trying to give information that I'm sure some of your listeners will be able to digest, but they might have to listen to your show a few times in order to really digest such advanced information. But I'm sure they will in time.
Absolutely. And for everybody out there listening, remember, the moment it's over, you can go back and play it immediately. As well as the other interviews with Dr. Turi. They're available online. And as a matter of fact, when he predicted the earthquakes, the very next video was that that's immediately what we talked about, is talking about the 2 earthquakes that hit on that same darn day. Now, I know we got about less than 20 minutes left, Dr. Turi, so I'm going to give it to you, but real quick, someone made a very important comment, and I think you're going to agree with this. Okay, here it is. Stacy Singer says, psychics are natural remote viewers. I think that's true myself, and because of what you are able to do. Would you agree with that statement?
Well, again, it has to be a perception of what a psychic is all about. As far as I'm concerned, I don't consider myself a psychic, even though, for the lack of word, people call me a psychic, and so was my dear mother, who passed away. So, give me a second. It's just here fresh. I love you, Mom. So what I'm trying to say is, she used to say, Louis, you're much more psychic than what you could ever believe. And I say, Mom, you know what? Maybe you're right. But at the same time, I have to agree with her. But I am using a software that I designed with Alawan Software in Los Angeles. So I'm using the same type of software that NASA used to send the shuttle. And I understand that the stars are much more than dead rock hanging there for the sake of beauty for NASA to create a little robot to go on Mars. There is a divine purpose in the universe that science has to assimilate. Not yet, but it will. So I am using the psychic energy that is Draco working through me, so I have to agree with her. But most of all, I am using that software that allows me to see the alignment of the stars that produce those energy that creates the news, either good news or bad news. And it seems, again, that it's always negative. And that's why I use negative window dates, because people tend to recall easily when I'm negative. If I said to you, you're going to go through tomorrow through there, you're going to get a brick on your head, sudden enough, you're going to remember that. But you're not going to remember the good stuff that I talk about. When I do a reading, I emphasize 98% positivity. Meantime, I still have to warn my clients of a certain danger or negativity that I see ahead of them. So in reference to psychic, it's an energy that you can develop. I have students from all over the world, and some of them are accredited doctors, NASA scientists, who is who in America, name it. You cannot be stupid and dig into my work. you have to be a little bit special. Sorry for me to be very honest and direct. That's me. I can be like Trump sometimes. I share the same dragon's tail, maybe. So what I'm trying to say is, if you educate it, and that might take something like a week, 5 or 6 hours a day, you can raise the cosmic consciousness. You just have to understand the divine plan and never forget God created the stars and the heavens for much more than the sake of beauty, but He created the stars to be used as sign so that you can lead a safer, much more productive life. You need to speak God's language, and God don't speak to fools, to religious fanatics, to atheists. He speaks to people that are curious, people that want to know, that take a chance to think outside the box, and outside of fear, that stop their curiosity. And like Einstein says, it's a miracle for curiosity to survive education. Okay, so you got to be curious. This magnificent design, this magnificent divine energy has been stolen. The values, the secret of the cosmic code has been replaced by man's religious folly and by the scientific community who think they're going to give you the answer through mathematics. No. It's harmonious. It's an harmony. It's an understanding of both the physical and the spiritual laws that allows me to do what I do, and you can do exactly the same. You can be as precise as I am in making predictions or reading people's future. It's a matter of education, and you can ask any of my students. They're as good as I am.
You mentioned the age of Aquarius, and we are in the age of Aquarius. When did it begin?
In 1945, when the government hired all these people that was hijacked by the reptilians to create the first nitrogen bomb.
Oh, yes. You mean after Project Paperclip, when we had the Manhattan Project around that time? Gotcha.
Yeah, around that time. And in the age of Aquarius started in 1945, so to speak, and we have made more discovery in 50 years than the 2,000 years we have spent into the age of Pisces, which is the age of deception and religion, which has allowed the reptilians geographically to find their prophets, whomever they were, and stimulate their mind to write all sorts of destructive and deceiving information, saying all sorts of things anywhere, everywhere. So, if you're going to dig into cosmic divinity, cosmic wisdom, you have to be able to cast aside everything that you have accepted as reality, anything that's been accepted by the majority, and disciplines that rule this world nowadays. And it's because of this discipline and this indoctrination that we are in the chaos that we are in. The reptilians went to Asia, went to Africa, went to Europe, went to America. And before the conquistadors, poisoning the Bolivians, the Mayans, these people were really, really close to astrology, because astronomy did not exist during those days. And they were using the movement of the planet to make all sorts of predictions for the weather, for their crops. They were very close to nature. Now, what I'm trying to say, when the reptilians created all this religion, they knew that was going to interfere and create a hell of chaos, in creating ISIS, by the way. They knew that. That's why they created it. But you can be a Christian, you can be a Jew, you can be a Methodist, you could be a Muslim. Doesn't matter where you were born, you have a set of stars, you have a UCI. In other words, astrology reunites people, they combine people together when religion separates. And the first mission, the first mission of Jesus was to introduce humanity to our Father in the heaven. So Jesus' ministry was cosmic in nature, and that the proof is that the 12 apostles, essence of the 12 apostles, represent the 12 hours of the day, the 12 months of the year, the 12 sins, the 12 Turi, the 12 Israel, the 12 notes of music, the 12 signs of the zodiac. So all this supreme cosmic wisdom has been stolen from you and your children. And my mission is to bring it back. And it's not an easy game, but I'm making significant progress again because of people like you, Lucas, George Norrie, and whomever has helped me in the past and whomever will help me in the future to accomplish it so we can survive and get those things out of our solar system.
You mentioned something really amazing and accurate, the fact that you're bringing it back. I've always felt, and I'm sure all these people here listening, and especially in the chat when you mentioned people curious, we're all curious. That's why they're all here, and me, myself included. I believe that in, say, I don't know, 300, 500,000, 2,000 years ago, we were far more advanced spiritually, like you even mentioned with the Mayans and astrology, than we are now. It seems that there's been a major rift that separated us and slowed us down. Is it even possible that we were vibrating at a higher frequency than we are now? Did we slow ourselves down?
Let me tell you something. Right under your feet, wherever you are now, you or any of your listeners, DJ, if you go like a couple 100 miles or maybe 100 miles below your feet, you're going to end up in the lava, red melted lava, right? In there, you have countless amounts of generation, societies, their monuments, their history all melt. So if you think humans in 2,000 or 3,000 years ago were advanced, my God, there is so many disappeared civilizations melting under your feet. Is insane. But, your reality can only be perceived through your eyes. I mean, look what was this world 50 years ago, 100 years ago. Okay, even 100 years ago, Los Angeles did not exist. Look where we came from in 100 years. Imagine in 200, 300, 400 years from now if we make it.
If we make it is the key word. If we make it.
Yeah. If not, we're going to join the rest of the story because Mother Earth, you know what, she will always regenerate herself. Yeah, she's like a dog, she's checking off fleas. She regenerates herself. It takes time, and then she's going to become a beautiful green planet. But we don't have to join those disappeared civilizations, melt under our feet. We don't have to do that. We can apply our will right now. We can start to change our thought. You start with yourself by being more positive, by refusing to be negative, which is the hardest thing that you will ever have to do. It's probably harder to be positive than to smoke drinking or smoking pot, than to stop smoking pot or stop drinking. This is the hardest thing to do. I challenge you to try to stay more than 5 minutes with a negative thought. Okay?
Oh, yeah, that'd be very difficult nowadays, I would think.
But, yeah, especially when you're bombarded left and right by the reptilians that are running the brain, the mind, and the soul of all the people that have a position of power, and those people are totally oblivious. They are slaving for the reptilians. Anytime you talk about negativity, conspiracy, and you don't offer any solution, you're dealing with imagination and you're dealing with the reptilians which are conducting your endeavors. So it's very, very difficult when you are when you are involved in a career that is negative to promote the positive or have progressive answers to offer to the people. In my type of career, hey, I deal with the negativity just because I have to, because if you look at the compass, it's going to point out north, which means people are going to assimilate negativity much faster and much better than positivity because all they heard all their life and ate all their life is conspiracy or religion or science. I'm coming up with a different view, challenging you to the extreme and understand the importance that, like Michael Jackson said, the man in the mirror, it starts with you.
Right.
It starts with you. And keep positive and knowing that the future is nothing else than the reincarnation of the thought, knowing that you have been made in the image of God, regardless of what the church wants you to believe, okay? when I call you a God, you should appreciate it, you should realize it, and you should use it, because you have been made at the same image of your Creator, and you have been granted the opportunity to create your reality right here, right now. Meantime, you have all sorts of interferences all around you. And you have to recognize, these interferences and make an effort not to go that direction.
And I was just
participate with the Draconis.
I was just gonna. You're actually, literally, you are psychic, because you were reading exactly what I wanted to talk to you about. You mentioned being positive. I wanted to ask you, and you also mentioned us being gods, creators of our own universe, meaning our own reality, our own life. Can you tell us?
And forever.
Forever.
And forever, Dr. J. Forever. Yes, there's no beginning, no end. Realize this. Don't be afraid of death. It's a recycling energy. It's a liberation. It's a blessing in disguise. Don't be afraid of death. It's beautiful. It's beautiful in the way that it allows you to be a better person next time around. And it doesn't have to be in this world, believe me.
Now, I'm sure in your own work, now I know we only have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try to get this in because I want to.
And I need to pass on my prediction. I need to pass on my prediction too, okay?
Yeah, yeah. The effect that people have on their own life, like you said, for infinity, by their own thoughts. Can you talk about that really briefly? Because if someone is always in a negative mood, well, then they're going to create a negative atmosphere.
Exactly.
For them. And the other way, positive the same way.
But it's very hard, because if you have a UCI which is loaded with Saturn, which is called in Greek mythology the Great Malefic, you're going to find very hard to escape politics, to escape conspiratorial material, to get away from science. You're going to see the reality of the world you're in without any hopes to get out of it. So there is a way to become positive. You can get help. You can get come to my Sedona conference where I'm going to hypnotize everybody and help to tap on the superconscious to remove the poisoning entities. Or come to my UFO cruise in October. I'm going to be running all over the place doing just that, helping people with a very light trance and hypnotizing them to tap on the superconscious and rebuild that hopes that for life, for positivity, and connect with the Draconis. We desperately need our positive thoughts to battle the reptilians, which are winning the battle constantly. I'm telling you, the next 2 or 3 years are going to be tragic if you don't help me. You've got to help me.
You actually answered what somebody was asking was, how can they become students of yours? And I would think I was going to save that till after you gave your predictions, but you just sort of mentioned the events that you're having. So let's plug in everything real quick before you give the predictions. So if someone wants to become a student of yours, to become as psychic as the others that you've taught, what does it take for them to be? Going on the cruise, for instance, that you mentioned, or your seminars where they get hypnotized?
Well, that is one way to go, okay? But ultimately, you have to spend a week with me at 6 or 7 hours a day. And I have a course. I got 16 CDs with all the printed material and the ebooks that goes with it. I get you right from the bottom where you know nothing, and I build your cosmic consciousness all along. You have to listen to 16 CD, in other words, spending a few days with me and do the listening to all that I teach you, the cosmic design. Now, if you have an emergency, that's a different situation that you need to talk to me on Skype and let me cleanse you. You can go to drturi.com. You can contact me through my website or my wife and set up a meeting face-to-face. You have to find a way to record it because the information, the guidance, and the prediction I have for you are extraordinarily important because each rules and each law is different for every person that I deal with. So you need to have this recorded. So if it's an emergency, you got to have a reading with me. And my reading starts anything from 300 to 700. But again, if they say they are from your show, I'll give them a top VIP reading that costs $700 for $300. So that's what I'm going to do for the people that, because I know, it's a lot of money for people, but it's your life. You're talking about your life. You're talking about your future, and it's worth $300 or even $700. But what I'm trying to say is, if not, come to one of my events. Go to drturi.com, look at all the banners, look at all the dates, because I don't have it in mind right now, and then join us. I'm going to be speaking with some top UFO researchers out there, okay? And then those guys have incredible information to pass on. Their repertoire of wisdom is very different than mine. But that's the beauty of listening to all these speakers for a full week in that cruise. We take off from San Diego, we're going to Mexico. You're going to be with us for a full week, listening to all these guys and listening to me. And on that ship, I'm going to be doing some serious healing and serious hypnotization. So, you can come to Sedona very soon, in a few days. I'm going to go to Sedona. I'm doing the same. LA, Las Vegas, all over the place. I'm even going to Australia to do that next year. So I'm in demand. So jump on it while you can.
Literally globally. And for those of you in the chat, I have posted the link to drturi.com and also on my website, drjradiolive.com. In Dr. Turi's bio is a hot link that will take you directly to his website. And it has so much information, folks. It's something that you're going to want to keep visiting because he's always posting stuff there, news that you really must pay attention to. And when Dr. Turi says that we're going to enter these times that we have to worry about, these tragic times, it's already starting to happen if you pay attention to the news. I don't think things will get cleared up till probably after the 2020 election, at least in the U.S. Globally, I don't know. Dr. Turi could explain that, and that's what we're going to talk about next time. But real quick, your predictions. What do you got to say, Dr. Turi?
All right, so get a pen and get a piece of paper, guys. The good news, again, you can go to my website, drturi.com, and you can look on the radio show that I'm going to do with George Norrie. You'll see that, and you can click on that, and you can read all the prediction in great details. But I'm going to give you the main date. I want you to write down March 29 and April 27. On those days, the keyword is shocking news. Of course, earthquake above 6.0 that could create a tsunami, definitely volcanic eruption, news from the cosmos. This SOS window is the same one that produced the 9/11 attack in New York. So it's going to be a tough one. So those two windows, March 29th and April 27th, I'm pushing you all the way down there for you to see that I can go in the future. Much closer, April the 12th, the beginning or ending of important phases of your life. That's when I lost my mother and when David Icke was refused access to Australia. So you will see in your own life, like something's going to start or something will end. And then you can make up your own results by auto-analyzing your own life. And the last date is April the 20th. Now, be careful. I repeat, be cautious. The key word is death and drama. Now, that's what the reptilians use. They're going to be coming in force from Pluto and expect dramatic news about Russia, secret, the FBI, sex, the police being killed, or crazy people killing people. Definitely also news about terrorist attack. So this is the worst negative window that the reptilians use, and you're going to see a hell of death and drama on April 20th. So again, I repeat myself, go to drturi.com, locate the banner where you see where I'm going to be in coast to coast with George Norrie, and you can read all the details on the dates that I just gave you.
You know, April 20th is notoriously infamous. First of all, Hitler was born that day, which people would agree was the most evil man, causing not directly but indirectly 50 million people to die. Last year, Avicii, the famed artist who broke through from electronic dance music into pop music, committed suicide. You had the Columbine shooting. I mean, I can go on and on and on. So if you're saying that this April 20th is something we have to worry about, me living in Los Angeles, being around in the 94 quake and remembering all of that and always hearing about the San Andreas fault, I got to tell you, I'm definitely ready for the earthquake, but at the same time, I am not. So, anyhow,
Yeah, I know.
any
I will be in LA on the I will be in LA on the 18th. So during
well,
that
then we got to make
energy, I'll be in LA.
plans to see each other then, if that's the point. That's the case,
I
absolutely.
would love to take you to the restaurant and have a good meal and a good talk, my friend.
Yeah, yeah, my family has one, so I'll bring you there, as a matter of fact. Now, real quick
Cool.
before we go, we mentioned your website. We mentioned the what you're going on with the I don't want to say tour, but the cruise, and of course the predictions, your website, your course, and everything else. Is there anything else you want to plug in before we wrap up?
No, no. Basically, whomever has listened to you and I tonight, they have to listen to the little voice and the little voice, the intuition that never lied to them. If that
Yes.
little voice says, "Well, you know what? I should dig into Dr. Turi and listen to Dr. G a little bit more," then let it be. Because I cannot push anybody. So just let it be. If you want me, I'm here. I'm accessible now, but I won't be accessible when I start to get going. So make the most while you can. That's what I can say. Now, you can also get the Nostradamus Driving Forecast. Highly, highly recommended. It's also on my website. It's only $10. I made it very, very affordable. So you can see that everything that we went through was fully predicted well before it happened. So just, spend the $10 and have fun. And if you can't afford it, then let's meet on Skype and let me take care of you properly. I want to thank you so much one more time, my dear friend. I can't wait to go back on that show and have another discussion. I'm sure your listener will also agree that we can gather much, much more information where I can even do some private reading for the audience to show them the power that is given to me through all this extraordinary experience that I went through.
And for those listening, I gotta say he did a reading for me, and he was very accurate. And I believe there's so many people in the chat, or so many comments and questions. I think it might have been MacArthur Lewis Saint who said he wanted to do an on-air reading. All of that is possible. Now, normally I try to wait about 6 months to bring back a guest, but not with Dr. Turi. I bring him on regularly because he's got so much amazing information. And each time he's able to come on, we're able to confirm what he talked about. So remember, folks, March 29th, April 7th, and April 20th, those 3 dates. And remember, we are all creators of our own universe, meaning our own reality. Make the most of it. Think positive. If you think negative, then you're going to create negative atmosphere. You're going to cause more car accidents, things like this. This is just what I've always learned from paying attention to people like Dr. Turi. You have to have a positive mentality. Now, let me give some shout outs here. First of all, to all the fine people in YouTube Nation, it's going to take me a while to go through because some of these people posted multiple times, so let me go through one by one. Shout out to Stacy Singer, MacArthur Lewis Saint, I Can Build It, David Lopez. Thank you, David. You're usually number one in the first person in the chant. Let's see who else we have. Katarina Luna Di Camilla. And of course, we have my social media manager, Pam Vrettenberg, with her website, which is unitedtruthseekers.com. And also, good friend, Lars Saturn. Thank you, Lars. Much love, much support, and I will talk to you soon. And let's see if there's any. Dezombified. Got to thank you too, Dezombified. And also, Scotro. I hope I said that properly. I believe I did. Let me see if I missed anybody else here in this chat. Just me. Very unique one. I like that. Just me. Thank you for joining us, Just Me. And also Kenny Vegas. Thank you, sir, for joining the show today and being participating in the show, not just listening, because there's a lot of people listening who are passive, but you find folks in the chat are actually participating, and that I appreciate and the guest absolutely appreciates, because we both know that you're listening and you're not only commenting on what the guest is saying, you're actually asking questions. You are engaging with the guest directly through me. Unfortunately, the phone lines weren't able to work, so you guys can't call in, but I've been able to ask your questions through here. Let me see who else I've seen. Anybody else here? And yes, Realities in Perspective. Thank you as well for joining in. And let's see, anybody else? The rest, I believe, Kingfish Kebab. Thank you, sir, for also joining in this. Michelle Perez. Yes, it's a pleasure to see you in this chat. And anyone else? Like I said, it's a lot. Wow. I am going through them all. Kenny Vegas, we already mentioned Kenny. Stacy Singer, I really want to give you another shout out just for what you've been saying throughout the show. It seems to me like not only are you also psychic, but you and Dr. Turi literally are almost on the same plane, meaning you two could have an amazing conversation and be on the same page. It seems to me that, Stacy, you definitely understood where Dr. Turi was coming from and what he was saying, and the questions you were asking were really on point. Halidiumlabs.com. Thank you, sir. You've been very loyal being on this show and listening for quite some time. I want to thank you for that. And as I'm scrolling through all these pages, that's why it's taken so long to make sure I get everybody. I want to make sure everybody gets their proper shout outs. And I'm coming to the end. I want to make sure there's nobody else I didn't miss. Stacy Singer, we already said that. We already said Lars. Of course, I'll talk to you soon. And Alan A. Nakamura. Alan, I want to give you a super shout out also because you are the first Patreon patron, and I appreciate that. So aloha to you two from Hawaii. And again, we have clap. Let me see this if I can see this. Clap on, clap off 6. I like that. Very, very unique. Clap on, clap off 6. And like I said, Lars, if you're still listening, I will talk to you soon off air. Now, for the people that I also have to thank are, of course, the station owner of UPRN, United Public Radio Network, which is Joe Montaldo, 107.7 FM, New Orleans, Louisiana, as well as all the global affiliates reaching all the way to Hong Kong. You name it, folks. And as a matter of fact, as I'm speaking, I am seeing lightning. That's pretty darn amazing. I'm actually pretty shocked. In my little studio, I am seeing lightning. We also have to thank JC from Deprogrammed Radio in the United Kingdom, who's carried my show for several years and followed me from different networks, who has stations, as I mentioned, in London and Leeds in terrestrial formats. In my own team, I want to thank, I mentioned Pam Vrettenberg with her my social media manager and her website, unitedtruthseekers.com. But someone who doesn't get much praise, which I want to give public praise to, is Joshua Cherez. He is my assistant producer, and I've even elevated and to give him a better title, which is more of VP of Operations or just assistant in general. So Josh, if you're listening or if you're asleep, I want to thank you out there. iHeartMedia, I want to thank you folks for not kicking us off talking about fringe things, because when you're globally controlled, mainstream information that Dr. Turi talks about, I'm sure you guys are trying to suppress. But the fact that you're carrying us, I want to thank you. Now, the most important people that need to be thanked are all the listeners. Yes, I gave a shout out personally to each and every one of the people in the chat, but I want to give it to everybody who's listening, whether you're in London, whether you're in Athens, whether you're in somewhere in Canada, Mexico City, Oahu, you name it, folks. Melbourne, Australia. It's you fine folks. This is the reason the show is going on. If it wasn't for you, and if it wasn't for your curiosity, then I wouldn't be out here presenting these guests for you guys to learn this information. I used to say this going back when I started the show in 2013. Actually 2012, but 2013 when I went off on my own, is disclosure is in your hand, folks. Meaning that don't be passive listeners. Please be proactive. Take all the information you've learned. For instance, Dr. Turi's predictions, and pay attention to them. Do something with them. Share them with people. Share Dr. Turi's website with people. You know, tell people that they can get a reading, a personalized reading, or they can go on the cruise. There's so much that we can all do if we work instead of just listening and being passive. Be active, not passive. With that being said, folks, I want to thank Dr. Louis Turi again for joining me on this fine program. And now I am officially signing off.